The San Francisco 49ers have been to the Super Bowl multiple times in the last few years, haven't been able to come away with the ultimate prize, and now things are only going to get more difficult for them to even get back to the point that they've already been a couple of times now. They've got a ton of players that aren't there anymore. They've got a big, massive quarterback contract now that they've paid Brock Purdy. A lot of challenges in front of them. Can they get back to the top? Can they actually make it happen, or did they miss their chance? Is their Super Bowl window closed? Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to BPA. This is the best podcast available. I'm your host, Luke Easterling, and today we are going to break down the curious case of the San Francisco 49ers. This is a team that's been loaded with top talent for the last few years. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch have done a great job building this team into a contender, and then they just hit the jackpot of a rookie contract quarterback with Brock Purdy. They did not finish the job with him on that rookie contract. They made it to the Super Bowl multiple times. They weren't able to get it done, and now they've got to deal with flipping the salary cap the other way around, where the top heavy part is being paid to your quarterback. That means you got to draft better, you got to scout better, you got to sign better. Can they make it happen when they couldn't do it with Brock Purdy on the rookie contract? Now it's going to get a lot more challenging. They've already lost a lot of players, particularly on defense. To break all of that down, we're going to bring on Kyle Madson, who knows the 49ers as well as anybody. You've seen him all over the place if you're a 49ers guy. He's on the radio every day in that area, but he's on the Candlestick Chronicles podcast. He's the managing editor of Niners Wire over at the USA Today Sports Network. So all kinds of places to find Kyle's opinions, but we're going to bring him here to BPA to break down where the 49ers have been, where they are now, whether or not they can ever get back to where they were, or if that opportunity has just passed them by, at least with this regime, to be a Super Bowl champion for that historic franchise. So stick around for that in the interview room later. In the meantime, you know where we go first. We go to the top of the board. Couple of rookie-related situations, an injury that I'm super bummed about for the rookie class, a little bit of a homer pick because I'm a Tampa and a Bucks guy, and then another suspension elsewhere in the league that could end up having an impact on one of the rookies from this class. We'll talk about it from a fantasy, a dynasty perspective as well. Let's go to the top of the board. So a couple things that happened this week in the league, or over the last week, I guess. It's not great news. It's not good news for any stretch of the imagination. But the first thing, we kind of been waiting to see what would happen with Jordan Addison, the Vikings wide receiver. Obviously had a citation for driving under the influence back in 2024. We were kind of waiting to see how the league would respond to that. They have responded to that with a 3-game suspension. So Jordan Addison, the number 2 wide receiver in Minnesota, he's going to miss the first 3 games of the 2025 regular season. Obviously, it's a huge blow to the Vikings offense. And I think it's interesting to look at, obviously, you got Justin Jefferson, elite wide receiver, one of the best in the league, but you're already dealing with the kind of volatility in that offense because you're moving from Sam Darnold last season to J.J. McCarthy, who, by all accounts, very promising rookie, top 10 pick that he traded up for, but a guy who missed his entire rookie season with a knee injury. And so he's coming in. He's going to be the guy right away, the starting quarterback. A lot sitting on his shoulders as a young guy. And then you have this where you're going to be losing, your number 2 wide receiver for the first 3 games of the year. He's got a veteran guy that I think can step in right away. Jalen Naylor, pick out of Michigan State a few years back. He's been a solid performer for them in a reserve role, in that 3rd wide receiver role. Obviously, he becomes elevated. But the guy I'm really interested to see is the mid-round pick this year out of Maryland. Ty Felton is a wide receiver that I, throughout the process, felt like would be a great fit in this offense. And sure enough, he ended up in Minnesota. And again, he's got great size, great speed, great physicality, tracks the ball really, really well. He's tough at the catch point, isn't really fazed by contact when other guys are slapping at the ball. I think he's such a great fit for this offense, and I love his ceiling. And again, Kevin O'Connell, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. Obviously, you never want to lose a player like Jordan Addison in your offense. He's an explosive big play guy, had a huge season last year with some big games, especially from a fantasy perspective. But I think, again, Naylor has been reliable enough. I really like the ceiling on Ty Felton. I think they're going to be able to make it work through those first 3 weeks. And again, as long as J.J. McCarthy is as advertised, I think the offense shouldn't be much less than it normally would be without him. Obviously, when he gets back, it's going to be a huge boost. But I'm in favor of these guys that are going to be taking over. Again, I think Jalen Naylor, the floor is really high, even if the ceiling's not huge. But I think Felton is the guy that takes the ceiling up a notch with his combination of size and speed. I think he could be a big play threat for them which is what really they'll be missing with Addison off the field. The other one is kind of a homer pick, guys. One of the big rookie injuries we've already seen this season. It's the worst part of training camp. I talked about it last week as we were leading into that preseason opener, the Hall of Fame game. I just want everybody to get to the regular season healthy, and we never have it. It never happens. I know it's never going to happen, but I can hope anyway. And one of the worst injuries we've seen to my Tampa Bay Buccaneers already, 4th-round pass rusher David Walker, 2-3 days into training camp, he tears his ACL. He's going to miss his entire rookie season. Just a huge blow to a Tampa Bay defense who surprised everybody. The Bucs did when they took a wide receiver in the first round, and Emeka Egbuka, even though they had so many needs on defense, but then they spent like the next 5 picks on defensive players, back-to-back corners, and then back-to-back pass rushers. David Walker was one of those guys, and I bring him up in particular because we talked about him on this show so many times leading up to the draft, even before the Bucs drafted him. He was a stand-on-the-table guy. He was a sleeper guy with even some of the guests that I have on the show. People that when you looked at the film, it didn't matter that he played at Central Arkansas. He was just dominating snap after snap after snap, and then he goes to the Senior Bowl. He does the same thing. Obviously caught the Bucs' eye. So you want to talk about teams trying to replace guys. He's a guy that hasn't even played it down in the NFL yet, but I think they were going to rely on him to bring some juice to a pass rush in Tampa Bay that just did not have enough the last few seasons since the Super Bowl run days where they had JPP and then prime Shaq Barrett. They've still got Vita Vea. They've still got some guys, who can get after the quarterback, but they went out and signed Hassan Reddick. It's been a 2nd-round pick last year on Chris Braswell out of Alabama, so they're hoping to see a big jump from him this year. They did spend a 5th-round pick this year on another guy who's going to have a big impact on that defense. Logan Hall, they're hoping will take a big step forward. And so there's a lot there. There's a lot of bodies that they're hoping to get production out of that they haven't had. But David Walker was one of those guys that they really were counting on and really excited about. And they're just not going to have him this year. It'll be a boost to them next year when they basically get an extra draft pick when he's back healthy. But a huge bummer for the Bucs, and another reason why it's so tough when these guys that they come in with so much hope, so much preparation, and it's kind of all gone in the rookie season before it even gets started. So kudos to David Walker. Hope he's back to full strength as soon as possible. Interested to see what the Bucs do to juice up that pass rush in his absence. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the interview room here at BPA, and we are joined by, I don't know if you know the most about the San Francisco 49ers, Kyle, but I want to hear it from you because I think you're the most fun. You're one of my favorite tweeters. Like, you're like the funny tweet guy who like tweets stuff, and I'm like, man, I wish I had thought of that. That was really funny.
I don't know that you know the most, but you're funny is the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. So thank you. That's really, really kind.
You're welcome. That's what, I would rather be the funny guy than the guy who knows the most anyway, too. So, like, I suppose maybe
1,000%.
That's why we get along, but no.
The lane
Kyle Madson is my guest, which your Twitter name in and of itself is just hilarious because you are Kyle, a Madson, not a specific Madson, just a general Madson who exists out nowhere, which is just a funny, like,
because it's my middle initial is A.
That's what I mean. Like, it used to be just that, but then you figured out a better way to present it.
Put a little comma in there.
Fantastic. You're everywhere, man. Like I said, you're on the radio all the time in that area. Candlestick Chronicles, the podcast, which is fantastic. You've got, obviously, your managing editor over at Niners Wire. You're doing all the things. And that's why I wanted to talk, because I feel like the Niners are, like, quietly, at least on a national scale, like the most intriguing team in the league right now, because you've got this team that has been so close, and they've been on the doorstep multiple times. They did all the stuff they were supposed to do, right? You get to even come out of the Trey Lance debacle with like the saving grace of Brock Purdy, and then to go that whole rookie contract and get so close and not be able to make it. Mm-hmm. I guess my first question off the top is like the easy one, which is the window closed? And if not, why should 49ers fans be hopeful now that you've got the cap kind of inverted? Now it's flipped now, where you've got the rookie contract giving way to now Brock Purdy being a highly paid quarterback. You've lost some of those guys on defense. You've got the inability to pay as many people as you want to now because you're spending so much on the quarterback. How much pressure does that put on the front office? What does all this mean for the 49ers this year and moving forward? Is the best football we've seen under this regime in the past?
Man, it's hard to say. It's hard to say yes to that. Wait, no, I think it is in the past, like, because they were so good between 2019 and 2023, save for a weird year in 2020 where they were super banged up.
Yeah.
They've been Super Bowl contenders. That's a crazy long window in the NFL. So I I'm not going to sit here and go, yeah, they'll just do that again, because it's really, really difficult to have everything kind of fall into place in that way. But if any team was going to do it, I think you're kind of looking at a team that would be well equipped to do so, because yeah, Brock Purdy gets more expensive, but they still have Fred Warner, who signed an extension this offseason. They still have George Kittle, who's an all-pro, signed an extension this offseason. Christian McCaffrey, by all accounts, is healthy as can be. He's participating fully in camp, is not getting any weird random days off, or is not on some weird snap count. He just seems to be good to go. And so there's a chance, I think, that yeah, they could be really competitive this year, but that's going to take a lot of things going right, and a lot of rookies specifically playing really, really high level football out of the gate. So, and this is not an Eagles situation where you throw Cooper DeJean and who's there, Quinyon Mitchell in the secondary, and you just feel good about it, which is insane that they landed both of those guys, but that's a different thing.
Yeah,
but
that was rude. That was disrespectful of the league.
Like, they're just throwing those guys into this defense. It's already really good, right? The 49ers overhauled their defensive line completely, and they might have 3 rookies starting alongside Nick Bosa, right? They have D. Winters, who's probably going to start at will linebacker, super important spot in their defense.
Yep.
He was a 6th-round pick in 2023. I thought he might be off the roster, and now all of a sudden he's playing really well and he might start. They got some questions in the secondary. Like, there's a way this goes right, and they're competing for a Super Bowl again this year. But I think they're probably circling 2026 and 2027 as the years where they really ramp up back into that conversation. My anticipation this year is that they'll be kind of around the 10 win mark and in a wild card spot in the NFC. But yeah, as far as like, are they going to be as good as they were in 2019? Or I thought the 2023 team was really good.
Yeah.
It's tough to just put it on a football team to go, yeah, they'll just be that good again really soon, because that just doesn't happen very often.
I think one of the challenges that sticks out to me is I feel like the NFC has gotten better too, and I feel like the road is going to be harder on a week-to-week basis, let alone in the division where there's other teams popping up that are going to make it more challenging. It felt like for that 5-year stretch, it was like whoever gets the privilege of playing the Chiefs, which is obviously how it worked out for the 49ers as well. But it doesn't feel quite like that in the NFC anymore, where you feel like you have some more legit contenders. You mentioned pointing ahead to 2026 and 2027. Am I crazy for worrying, I guess, even a little bit, that they don't get that much rope? Like, if getting as close as they did is 10 wins and a wild card berth, I guess, enough to keep them around, keep this regime in-house to get to 2026 and 2027 to build on that? Will there be enough patience organizationally for them, or will they look and say, listen, I think we peaked, I think we need to start over?
Yeah, I think there will be, mostly because I don't think their owner Jed York wants to go through another coaching search. He really messed up the Jim Harbaugh.
Anybody done?
They botched the Jim Harbaugh thing as badly as they did.
Yeah.
And then they bring in Jim Tom Sula, a disaster. Then they bring in Chip Kelly, a disaster. And Kyle Shanahan was their 4th coach in 4 years when he got hired in 2017. Yep. The stability that they've been able to find under Shanahan and Lynch is, I think, something that Jed York values a lot. So I don't think that last year they go 6-11. You can blame injuries. You can blame roster construction, whatever it is.
I think you can just blame injuries. Really, I think there were enough.
Fair enough. So you blame injury. You blame injuries for last year. So if they bounce back and go 10-7 this year, like, all right, you feel like you're in a good spot moving forward. I think what you're talking about, where like the Bengals got with Marvin Lewis, right? Yeah. Where it's like, all right, this is 5 years in a row of first round exits, wild card exits. All right, we got to do something different. The Niners have been to Super Bowls. They've been a play or two away from going to 2 other Super Bowls. They've been a play or two away from winning a couple. Like, they've been right there on the doorstep. So I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are going to get a pretty long leash. Now, that said, they have so many advantages going into this year from just a roster standpoint. I think their roster is still good. Their early returns on their rookie class, now granted it's still early in camp, but are really strong. They play the AFC South and the NFC South, and then they have a last place schedule. So they get the Browns and they get the Giants and one other Doesn't matter. Anyways,
Somebody else
they get another team that finished in last place last year.
Right.
So if they're going 7-10 this year, in any circumstance,
Yeah.
that's where I think the seat starts to heat up. Like, okay, this little on the fly rebuild isn't heading the right direction. Next year might kind of be the do or die year. But for now, I think if going into this year, I don't think there's any heat on Shanahan and Lynch.
I love the way you mentioned the years prior too, because I always do that with Bucks fans. Like when they get frustrated with Todd Bowles or like wonder how high the ceiling is, they're like, guys, you got a real short memory. Like winning 4 straight NFC South titles really is an okay floor. Like for me, like if things could be a whole lot worse, and you don't have to look very far back in this team's history to see how bad things can be when you're changing head coaches every 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah, man, and especially with Tampa Bay, like it doesn't feel like they're being held back by their coach necessarily.
Right.
At least not from my perspective, but
yeah, I think it's very like prisoner of the moment stuff with the Bucks. Yeah. Like not to get too far off on that tangent, but it's like moments where they're like, "Oh man, I wish this," or "Oh, I wish if we had." And it's like, guys, it's bigger picture. Zoom out a little bit.
Well, and don't get it twisted. Out here, there is a, I don't even, we'll call it 70-25 with 5% indifferent. There's like 25% of the fan base. It's like, I'm out on Kyle Shanahan. See ya. Like, oh my God, what? What are you talking about?
Here's what I always say. Like the likelihood that if you fire that guy, that you will end up with someone as good as him versus someone not as good as him is not equal. Like it's far more likely you get worse. I promise.
Yeah. I think there's, and I know this is a tangent and I won't go too deep into it, but I think there's a lot of people that really, really, really wanted Trey Lance to succeed and become Josh Allen, and that he didn't. I think a lot of people place at the feet of Kyle Shanahan, and they say they're never going to win because he can't develop a quarterback, because look what happened to Trey Lance, and they're going to stink forever. So
you look at Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, and go, hello. Developed this one instead. It's
different. Yeah, but I've given up.
Well, listen, speaking of zooming out, if you look at, we talked about the turnover on defense. I'd like to dig a little more into that. Obviously, they're putting a ton on, they're going to be putting a ton on rookies, and we'll get to the rookies after this. But where is the spot where there's a new face? There's somebody who left. Who do you feel like they lost this offseason that's going to be the hardest guy to replace? Who has the hardest job filling a spot that was filled by either somebody who was just you could always count on, or it was just a position you didn't have to worry about that now becomes an issue? It becomes a question mark in some way. Where is that spot for this defense?
There's two answers. One is at corner, where Charvarius Ward left. Yeah. But I think they've had a contingency plan in place there. I think they really like Renardo Green, 2nd-round pick last year. Played really well as a rookie. I think they had a contingency plan in place there, and then they got to figure out the nickel situation, and we'll get to that when we talk rookies. But the will linebacker spot, that 3-down linebacker, they're going to be on the field alongside Fred Warner. That was Dre Greenlaw's spot, and Dre Greenlaw is one of the conservatively 7 best off-ball linebackers in the sport when he was at his best. So they had that duo there. Dre Greenlaw signs with the Broncos. Injury situation aside, he signs with Denver, and the 49ers didn't really have a plan in place. They drafted Nick Martin in the 3rd round this year, who is the player I thought would step into that role. But it sounds like it's going to be D. Winters, who I mentioned earlier, a 6th-round pick in 23, who was not super effective last year, but he improved a lot over the offseason and is having a really, really nice camp. But that said, having a really nice camp and effectively replacing Dre Greenlaw are 2 very, very different things. So I think that's going to be the one where, they lost Charvarius Ward, but I think if the 49ers are a 1st-round exit this year, or if their defense is not quite as good as they hope it is, I think that will linebacker spot is going to be one of the areas you look at and you go, man, they missed Dre Greenlaw really bad.
Yeah, I feel like that's not hard to do. That's what I mean when I look at this defense, is that you're just going to be relying on guys that typically you didn't have to worry about that spot because you had a guy like Dre Greenlaw there, and you knew what you were going to get, and you knew what the floor was and what the ceiling could be. Mm-hmm. We've danced around the rookies up to this point, but I'm I expanded it a little bit in the notes I sent you to be like, this team is going to need young players to step up in a way that they just haven't needed. I think in the previous years, they've had so many veterans to rely on. When you look at last year's draft class and then this incoming draft class, if the 49ers are going to maintain, kind of get back to that being a consistent contender and play like the team we're used to seeing, who are those young players, whether it's from last year's class or this incoming class, who are going to be the heroes, right? Who are going to be the guys that step into those big roles and prove right away and over the whole season that they can be relied on in those spots?
Yeah, I'm going to mention a couple guys up top as players who I think are going to be good, but maybe not game-changing players for them. And that's Malik Mustafa, safety from Wake Forest. He's dealing with a knee thing right now. He's going to miss, it sounds like miss the first part of the season, but he was really effective last year. Renardo Green, who I mentioned, has been a really effective player for them. I think Ricky Pearsall needs to be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think they can have a situation where Ricky Pearsall, like, yeah, no, he's okay. He needs to be a legit number one or really high end number two receiver for them. And then in this year's rookie class, that you're talking about Michael Williams, the defensive end out of Georgia. He's gonna start. He's like the only rookie who is on their unofficial depth chart in with the starters right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine he's gonna start. One of CJ West or Alfred Collins, their second and fourth round picks, the other way around. Collins is second round, West is fourth round. One of those two guys is going to start. I think a defensive tackle, and they need them to be good. Like they can't just be like, yeah, no, they're
start just so they'll stand next to each other when they break the huddle. Because Alfred Collins is like 6'5", 340, and CJ West is like maybe 6'1" and like 320. So it's just like very Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito situation. I just want to see that when they break the huddle every time.
It's hilarious. And there's a real chance you will, at least even if they don't.
I love the prospect. Like both of their tapes, you go back and how I ranked. I love both of those players, and I think they actually they combine very well the skill sets. I hope they end up on the field. I love those guys.
Yeah, man. The other one is Upton Stout, who third round pick from Western Kentucky, 100th overall. He was one of those guys that when he got drafted, it's like, man, it's kind of an overpay here at 100 overall. He's 5'8", $181. But he is a dog, man. There's everything coming out of training camp is he's got pass breakup on Ricky Pearsall on a throw from Brock Purdy. He's already doing the thing where he's leaving his coverage because he recognizes where the wheel route is going and going over, and Christian McCaffrey's wide open, and then Stout is running over to knock it away. He's setting the edge in the run game at 5'8", $181. All these things. Kyle Shanahan's talking about how he didn't have to learn how to be a pro. Is already showing up early, watching old tape. And it's just all those things that when you've watched the NFL long enough, or you followed the NFL long enough, or covered the NFL long enough, like these little things that these boxes you want to check for a really good player, Stout is checking a lot of them, and they need a slot corner. That's the position he's going to have to play just because of his size. And I'd be stunned if he's not the week one starter. And if he's good out of the gate with the defensive line, if that pass rush improves, now all of a sudden it's Diamador Lenore, it's Renardo Green, it's Upton Stout. Now they have a good secondary to hopefully pair with a strong pass rush, and they're off and running with Robert Saleh at the helm.
Right. It's never fair to just like enter the chat with a Hall of Famer when you start comparing rookies of any kind. But like all those traits that you mentioned, when I look back, one of my favorite players of all time is Rondé Barber, obviously. And this is a guy, third round pick, too small, undersized guy that wasn't the fastest guy in the world, but literally made a Hall of Fame career out of preparation and intelligence and physicality and instincts and making those exact plays. One of my favorite Rondé picks of all time was he's playing in the slot against the Eagles. It was the Matt Bryant game. Do you remember when Matt Bryant hit that 62-yard field goal to beat the Eagles in like 2009 or something like that? Like it was just
unfortunately.
ridiculous. Go find the highlight because it's just a fun highlight. But nobody remembers the fact that since they won on that field goal, that Rondé Barber had 2 pick sixes in that game off of Donovan McNabb. He literally scored the other points that the Bucs had in that game. But one of them was just like the most arrogant interception I've ever seen in my life, because it was just, he's in the slot and it's to Donovan's left, and it's just a quick like double slant with both the outside receiver on the left and the slot receiver on the left. So they both slant. Rondé takes like the first step to the inside to go with his guy, and then he just stops and runs to the other, like runs in the opposite direction, leaving his guy to run all by himself because he knows it doesn't matter because he's watched so much tape. Donovan's already on that back foot. He's letting it go, and he just jumps it and walks 40 yards for a
Man.
touchdown because he just knew. He just like, I don't have to cover my guy. I know exactly where this ball is going. And it's just that those are the types of things. Again, I'm not going to crown a guy like Upton Stout based on camp, but like when you start to hear those things, like you said, when you've watched enough football, you start to hear coaches say those types of things. Those are the things that separate guys like that. It's the confidence in your, because you'll watch it on tape and you see it in the game. You're like, oh man, that was really risky. You ask Rondé Barber, he didn't think he was taking a risk at all.
He just made the right play.
Yeah, he knew based on preparation and film study, like when X, Y, and Z happens, this is the result. So I'm going to put myself in position, and it works. It's not a risk. It's not a gamble to them because they know what's happening. I think when you start to say stuff like that, like it gets me excited about a player like that.
And if he's half the player Rondé Barber is, the Niners are in a really good spot.
Yeah, right. That'd be the case for just about anybody, right? I agree with that for sure. Real quick, you mentioned Ricky Pearsall and how good he has to be to kind of elevate this offense. How much does that have to do with what's going on with Juwan Jennings? Like how does that resolve? What is his impact on this offense when he's there, when he's not there? And maybe even looking forward, if they don't get this handled for beyond this season, what does that do for the future of this offense not to have that guy who I feel like is a really underrated part of what they do?
I'm talking about Pearsall?
I'm talking about Jennings, like more on Jennings, like his presence, what he brings, and what happens if he's not there, not just this season, but beyond this, if they can't get a deal hammered out.
Yeah, man, he's an interesting player because like I don't know if he's really good. Yeah, would have had 1,000 yards last year if he didn't get ejected in the final game.
Coming from a guy like watching the Bucs play, he's such a pain in the ass opponent.
Right.
Like I don't want to play against him because it feels like even if he doesn't have 100 yards, the 54 yards that he does is backbreaking because of when it happens and how it happens.
That's it. And that's where he's not a bona fide number one receiver in the traditional sense. And honestly, I don't think on a really good championship caliber offense, he's a number one receiver either, because a lot of what he does is uphill, is just fighting uphill. The value of Juwan Jennings is exactly what you said. It's that on 3rd and 13, when you've got to fit a throw into a tight window, he's going to go get it. Or on 3rd and 8, when he catches that pass at 7 yards with 2 defenders on him, he's going to find a way to get you 9. Yep. He's going to find a way to get, and it's just that tenacity and that toughness. And the reason he got ejected from that final game against Arizona was not because of anything he did. He just blocked the hell out of 2 different defensive backs, and they started fighting him afterwards.
He's too good at blocking.
And he did do some extracurriculars. I'm not trying to absolve him of it, but it's like the officials on, all right, this is going to keep going on. You're all done here. Right. Go be elsewhere. So, if losing Juwan Jennings is not like in the future, it's not like, oh my God, what are they going to do? Right? They're not losing. We'll just stick with the Bucs while we're here. They're not losing Mike Evans. Right. It's like, oh, that's a staple of the offense. You have to change what you're doing now because you don't have that player. But I mean, they run him inside like a tight end as a blocker, as a move blocker. He does all the little things that Kyle Shanahan loves a receiver to do, and on top of that, he's just kind of a dog with the ball in his hands. So, as far as this year goes, it would be a massive loss. He's dealing with a calf injury, second injury to the same calf of the offseason, which is always a major red flag. So I'm expecting
pipeline too from calf injury to Achilles just always scares the crap out of me, man. Like I hate it. It's so in every sport, right? We see it all the time now. Like calf strain, 3 weeks later, torn Achilles. It's like no.
Yeah, I would be shocked if we see him before the regular season. Yeah, just for having nothing to do with his contract situation. But I think that he put the Niners in a tough spot asking for a new contract because they need him this year.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a world where I think they can still win 10 games, but I don't think there's a world where we're watching the Niners offense like, hey, is this a title contender? Yeah. If Juwan Jennings isn't on the field for them. But in the future, they have Ricky Pearsall. They theoretically have Brandon Ayuk, who's still working his way back from a major knee injury. and then you're moving Juwan Jennings to wide receiver 3, where he's vastly overqualified, in my opinion. So
that's the thing, right? How do you value that in terms of a long-term extension? That's the difficulty, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why the Niners didn't just slap an extension on him and say here, because I'm sure if he had wanted to do 3 and 36,
It's almost
the
exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
Rashad Bateman contract,
Yeah.
very similar, very similar situation to Rashad Bateman in terms of, okay, you're valuable, but how valuable to this offense?
Right.
Like how valuable are you in it?
Like
So
you've
if
played enough football for us to know this is your role and it's valuable to a point, but that it's
Mhm.
not maybe what you wish it was, like in
But
terms of money.
if you want 15 million a year, go hit the free agent market and see if you can get 15 a year. And you might.
Right.
Like I don't, but I think that's kind of how they're viewing it. But yeah, if Jawan Jennings is here long term, then they have a good number 2 and an overqualified number 3 in a perfect world, which no team is scoffing at that plan or notion. If he's not here, I think they've insulated themselves from that with Pearsall, with Ayuk. And then there's the Jacob Cowlings of the world. They drafted Jordan Watkins this year out of Ole Miss.
Yep.
They've got some other players that they might be able to plug in that third receiver spot long term.
Well, again, man, it's going to be a fascinating team to watch. I'm interested to see how they navigate. Again, I think the last place schedule should help them a lot. The last thing we do before we let the guests go, we always do the nostalgia play and go random draft player from NFL history. And so I had to pull a Niner guy out for you, and I try to make them like somewhat compelling here.
Don't tell me who it is. Can you tell me what year?
It's 2012.
Okay.
And
LaMichael James.
it is. It's LaMichael James.
Come on. Let's go.
And DJ, the producer, can confirm this. It's in the notes that I already sent her, like for this. So I'm not lying. I'm not doing it. Like I'd already put this in the description well before this moment.
That 2012 class is one of the worst draft classes in NFL history. It was AJ Green in round 1. AJ Green? No, that's not his name. AJ Jenkins? AJ Jenkins.
Yeah, if you're talking Niners, it was AJ Jenkins in the first round. Yeah.
Yeah, it was LaMike. I think there was a defensive end from like Virginia Tech. But Joe Looney is the only player in that class.
Yep. You got Darius Fleming
from
Trent
Notre Dame.
Robinson, DB out of Michigan State. You got Jason Slowey, Western Oregon offensive lineman who did not play any snaps in the NFL.
Sure didn't.
And Cam Johnson from Virginia, who played 28 games.
Virginia, that was it. I legit think Joe Looney was the only player to get a second NFL contract from that draft class.
That's like when I looked at James, right? Because obviously, like being a draft guy, going back to 12 and remembering LaMichael James as a college football player. I mean, third team All-American in 2009, first team All-American in 2011, but a unanimous All-American in 2010, Doak Walker in 2010, Jim Brown trophy in 2010, all Pac-10 basically every year, Pac-10 offensive freshman of the year. That Oregon offense back then, I mean, this dude, absolute track star, second round pick. And then if you like didn't know context and you just looked at his Pro Football Reference page, you're like, okay, second round pick with that college experience. He rushed for like over 5,000 yards and had like 500 yards receiving at Oregon. He's on a different team 2 years later. Yes. Like, and from what I gather, like piecing it together, like asked for his release, like didn't like the offense, ended up going to Miami to be on the practice squad, even though other teams wanted him to join their active roster because he liked their offense. He lasted in Miami for just the
3
end
games?
of that 2014, 2015. And then that was it. Like career 44 carries in 4 seasons in the NFL. That was it. No touchdowns, 4.4 a carry. I mean, like what a straight, like, do you remember anything from the LaMichael James era of San Francisco 49ers football?
Yeah, I remember that Kendall Hunter was better. So we're throwing out old running back.
Yeah, that's what this is all about.
It was just because when he got drafted, that was right in that range where I started following the draft and was like looking at players before the draft. And plus that LaMichael James.
I had to consider that, Kyle, by the way, because I realized I'm old now. So I'm like scanning back to here when I first started in the draft. I'm like, oh yeah, Kyle wasn't born yet.
I was 21. Relax. I was 21 years old. I was doing a college radio show. But that Oregon team was awesome. That was the Chip Kelly Oregon team. That was who is the other?
Mariota, probably, right?
Kenyon Barner.
Oh, Barner.
I think was
Anthony
one of those
Thomas.
guys. Dennis Dixon. That was just
elite uniforms with like the steel like shoulder pads.
So when the Niners draft LaMichael James, is like, oh my God, they got LaMichael James. He could catch passes. He can play receiver. I thought he was going to be what Christian McCaffrey is.
Right.
Like that, just dual threat, does everything. He's so fast, you can run. And it just didn't work. The Niners with that power run game with Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh, like Frank Gore was perfect for it.
Yeah.
And LaMike was not. And then he gets into a Super Bowl against the Ravens and fumbles on his first carry. It's like, all right, I guess this guy's not very good. So I just big swing and miss for me on the excitement of LaMichael James versus the production of LaMichael James.
That's basically what I landed on, was just, wow, what a huge like up and then like just literal disappeared into nothing. Like what happened? And I think more curious to me was it wasn't an injury thing. Like usually when that happens, it's like, oh, a guy blew his knee out, or oh, he got an ankle and he just never could get back. That I couldn't find any evidence that it was like an injury related thing where he just never hit the ceiling. It literally just did not materialize from a football sense. It was so weird.
Yeah, he was just not an effective player. It was just kind of it.
Strange. Again,
also,
American.
In the interest of accuracy here, LaMichael James fumbled on his second carry, San Francisco trailing 7-3 with 1st and 10 on the Baltimore 24, and he coughs it up. Ugh. God, I can't believe I'm looking back at the play-by-play of this.
That sucks. That's the legacy. That's hard.
That's brutal.
Well, dude, like I mentioned at the top, you're everywhere doing all the things these days. So where can our viewers, our listeners find your work in all its forms?
One time I interviewed a writer out here named Marcus Thompson. Marcus Thompson has been around for a long time. He covers the Golden State Warriors. He's now a columnist with The Athletic. He's an absolute legend in this area. I had him on my college radio show, and I asked him that question, and he went, "You can Google me," and I thought that was great.
You're gonna go with that? You're gonna go with Marcus?
No.
The problem is, if I Google you, Kyle, I'm gonna get an AI overview that's completely false, and I won't actually know anything about you because it's all gonna be lies.
Yeah. NinersWire.com is the website. Twitter, we mentioned earlier, Kyle A. Madson, Madson. Candlestick Chronicles is the 49ers podcast. We have a great time there. And then ESPN 1320 in Sacramento, youtube.com/ESPN 1320 if you want to check us out there.
Heck yeah. They can also find you picking third in the rookie draft. So who are you taking at 3?
Ooh, I got a trade offer a while back that what people need to understand about me is that when it comes to fantasy football, I'm going to lock in here in, when's the draft? 3 weeks from today?
Yeah, I think it is.
I'll lock in on August 26th.
I respect that, though. You got to compartmentalize. You just said all the stuff you're doing. Like, I have to Google you. So I understand that you can't afford to lock in until
so we'll see.
Get it.
We'll see if I even pick third. It might depend on what we're doing with Travis Hunter.
Isn't that a Kyle Shanahan quote anyway? We might not even be here in 3 weeks.
Yeah, right.
We don't know.
We'll be alive on Sunday.
Yeah. Dude, Kyle Madson, the man, the myth, the legend. Thanks so much for your time, man. Look forward to watching the Niners. Look forward to checking out your work this season, man.
Thank you so much, man.
Take care. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's episode of BPA. Again, big thanks to Kyle Madson for joining us for a fantastic conversation about the San Francisco 49ers. Make sure you're checking out his work and all the different places he's doing it. Thanks so much to all of you for continuing to tune into the show. Again, make sure you're liking, subscribing. Everywhere you get this podcast, make sure you're giving us reviews and comments and feedback. We want to know what you want to see from this show. Again, thanks so much for your support, and we'll see you next week.